Okay, today we're going to talk about hooks. And hooks are really important. They start your introduction paragraph and they really grab your reader's attention. Without a good hook, you have readers who will look at your essay and say, I don't want to read that. It's not super interesting. So if you look at this page that's on your video, it's called Writing Hooks. Good writers have interesting introductions as their very first sentence. And a hook can be a sentence, maybe too long. And you can catch readers' attention by writing a good hook. Well, there's a bunch of different types of hooks, but I'm going to tell you some of the main ones that are really easy to use, and they kind of go in order from easiest to most difficult. The first hook is a question. Now, the important thing to remember with a question is you don't want to re-say what the assignment is asking you. So, if an essay is asking you to write about if zoos should be closed, you don't want to repeat that question by saying, do you think zoos should be closed? Because that's really boring, and you're just repeating what somebody else has already said. So instead, you want to do a question that's interesting. It can include a fact, or it can just be something that's a little bit off where the topic is, but still relates to it. It could be a question like, have you ever been to the San Diego Zoo? See, that relates to zoos, but it doesn't exactly ask the same question that your topic does. The second type of hook is an onomatopoeia, and an onomatopoeia is a super fancy word for a sound word. So these are words like splash and boom and pow. They're usually words that you see in comic books. And you can totally use that as a hook, but you need to add a little bit more information. So in our example on the page, it says splash. I dove into the pool feet first. And so they're including that onomatopoeia, but they're also giving a little bit more information about where that sound is coming from. And it relates to the topic of swimming, which all of these hooks on our page are about. The next type of hook is dialogue. And dialogue is another really fancy word for a conversation happening between characters. And so when you use dialogue, you can do a conversation happening between scientists, or between you and the reader, or even between two people in a story that you're telling. So for example, this one says, I want to go swimming, he yelled. In this dialogue, make sure that you're noticing that there's quotation marks around what's being said. And they have their character, who is he, and what they're saying. Our next type of hook is setting, and setting is a really interesting type of hook, and it's usually used in narrative essays. So, not so much used in dialogue, but it can. Not so much used in argumentative essays, which is what we're writing, but it can be. Anyways, a setting is a place or a time that something takes place. So in this case, it says, the crisp blue water of the pool sparkled. And so this relates back to that pool topic that all of these hooks have. But say your topic was about if we should close zoos. Maybe your setting hook would be about the horrible conditions of a zoo, or it would describe the entrance to a zoo, and it would get your readers interested because they would be able to relate to that and say, oh, I've been to a zoo, that's really interesting. Or they would say something like, oh, that's horrible, I need to know what this essay's about. Our next type of hook is a fact, and facts are really important that you have them based in research. You don't get to make up facts, because facts are things that are empirically true and have been proven by scientists and other people with evidence. So when you think of a fact, you're going to want to make sure that you have evidence to support that from either a resource online or from a book that you've read, and you want to make sure that your fact has statistical information, which are like numbers. So maybe you want to create the fact, and you look it up, and you say, oh, 25% of animals that live in zoos are killed every year. And now I made up that fact, which is what we don't want to do, but you want to make sure that it's an actual true fact. So we're making sure that it's a fact, and that it's not based in opinion. It's based on evidence that's been collected previously. Our last type of hook is probably the hardest one, and it's funny. And so it really depends on your topic if you can use a funny hook or not. So a funny hook is like a joke or a riddle, and it depends on your topic. So if you're talking about zoos closing and animals dying and that kind of thing, you're not going to want to use a funny hook. It's in bad taste. But if you're talking about something lighthearted like comic books or something like that, then you can totally use a funny hook. That's up to you.